the South Atlantic District, which is Florida, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. It's that whole southeast area of the United States. And then I have northern Wisconsin, which is northern Wisconsin, upper Michigan, and I have southeastern Wisconsin, which is Milwaukee, but it also is Chicago. It goes all the way down to Indianapolis. It even goes to like Louisville, Kentucky. So when we did this, my wife and I, for a year, did this out of the San Diego, Carlsbad area where we lived, and I was a pastor for 5 years. And then we moved to a central location in Colorado Springs, and that's where we live today, and that's where I flew in from yesterday. A mission counselor helps start new missions. I wasn't here when Foundation in Folsom started, but of course I visited there a couple times and preached there and helped those new younger missions. Sometimes we help restart congregations. We're going to call what we're doing at Living Word in Petaluma a restart. They right now, it's one pastor, two churches. There's an ELS church in Windsor by Santa Rosa. They're going to try to go on their own when their pastor retires and just concentrate on Petaluma. But they need some mission board subsidy, a little bit of money, and they need a little bit of guidance. And so I'll get involved in that. We're trying to, restart churches in California that have really good land and we'd never be able to buy today. But for one reason or another, things have kind of gone either downhill or remained stagnant, and now we kind of restart them. And I've done some of those restarts in other parts of the country as well. And then a third thing that a mission board will do, and I'll help them with, is an enhancement. So maybe 3 years of funding to add a second position. There's some school choice situations in the Milwaukee area, and they'll go, we got all sorts of enrollment, but we need another pastor to follow up on all these unchurched families. If you give us 3 years, at the end of 3 years, we'll be able to afford this on our own. That'd be one example. So that's why I travel so much, so that I can help all these different areas figure out what they want and need from the mission board and how to put together a request and what are the strategies to do. And so one of the things I'm supposed to study then is trends that are going on in church bodies, in Christian churches. But of course, when you study trends, some of them you look at and you go, yeah, I don't know if that's really us. I don't know if that really applies. And some of them you go, this is a trend we better pay attention to. So this presentation is called Trends, What to Pay Attention to and What Not to Pay Attention to. And you're going to help me as we discuss the different trends and just go, do you think this is something churches need to pay attention to? Or is this something that's interesting but doesn't really apply? And I begin kind of by saying we all pay attention to some trends. Like years ago, not that many years ago, everybody maybe had regular television, then cable television, then maybe satellite television, and now it's all like through the internet. And if you want to watch football on Christmas Day, and you might not want to, maybe that's just me, you have to watch it on Netflix this year. If you want to watch Thursday Night Football, it's on Amazon Prime. So that's just like a trend that is happening, right? That things are going to online for so many things, including watching TV. Online shopping is a trend. So it was kind of a fun little tradition. I procrastinate when it comes to Christmas shopping. I'd wait for my daughters to come home from school, and then I'd take them out and we go shopping for my wife. Now you know what I do? Get out the laptop, go to Amazon, buy about 5-6 gifts, and I'm good. Maybe some of you do online shopping too. That's a trend, right? We pay attention to trends whether we kind of want to or not. You probably, many of you, right, have a phone, right? You have your cell phone, you have your smartphone, and it never used to be a thing, and now it's the thing. So, all right, some of those trends that are happening in this world, we pay attention to and we follow, and some of them we don't. We do need to pay attention to some things. Like, have you ever done some reading recently on the lower birth rates that are happening in our country and what this means 50 years from now? What does it mean? What are some things that we're going to be...
White population, or European population, which was dominant in this country, will no longer be dominant.
Right. That's a trend, is that our country, and it had a period of immigration in the 1800s, now has another one of those periods, and so it's going to be, we're going to look different, we're going to be much more diverse, and I actually think, that's actually a trend I should add to this list, because I think the future of American Christianity might be with immigrants who take the gospel more seriously than sometimes European background people do. But that's a good example. The lower birth rate, right, if you really study that out, we're going to be in trouble 50 years from now because we're not going to have enough people to take care of people. Have you kind of read about some of that? I mean, there's some things that can be done, I guess, through technology and automation, but there's other things, finally you need people to take care of people, and we're not going to have enough people because the birth rate is down. AI, what does this mean? Where is this going? Some people are afraid of it. Some people kind of champion it. I think of it this way. Cars are so much safer than they used to be. Right? I can back up by looking at a little camera and check things out. If I'm driving down and I turn my blinker on and there's a car in my blind spot, deet, deet, deet. And the only reason I know this is because I rent nice cars. I don't own a nice car. But when you rent cars a lot, then you go, oh, there's some nice features coming out. So AI can be good. AI can, be bad. I talked about that a little bit in my sermon this morning. Even churches pay attention to trends. When I started out as a pastor, which was 34 years ago, there was no such thing as soccer camps or music camps or Christmas for kids, or maybe you had Vacation Bible School. I haven't had that growing up as a kid, but it wasn't really an outreach tool. And now I've seen, Vacation Bible School go up and now start coming down, because some churches are saying all we're getting is other churches' children. It's not really an outreach tool anymore. So that's a trend, right? Another trend is, I see, are you having a live nativity? All right, more and more churches are having live nativities. We had one in Carlsbad, and it really grew. And it was, get people on campus, get to have them learn about your church and school. So there's all sorts of trends going on with the church. Some of them are good to pay attention to and follow, and some of them maybe aren't. I think a really good example is the TV series The Chosen. Anybody watch that? Heard of it? Yeah. What are the things that they do that they're capitalizing on trends? Like we've all seen movies and recreations of biblical history. But if you've watched The Chosen, they end with a nail biter at the end of every episode. So that you want to watch the next one. Because that's how people film TV shows now, so that you binge them. So that they have, when they shoot and they show there's 3 different storylines going on at once. It's not linear. It's this is going on. There's a flashback. There's a flash forward. That's how people watch TV nowadays. There's discussion groups, YouTube discussion groups before and after the episode. There's a big thing. It was down in San Diego. It's in Denver, different parts of the country, called Comic-Con every year. And characters from TV shows and actors and actresses show up, and fans of these shows go there and they wear, the costumes of their favorite show. This year there was a Chosen Con, where people that watch The Chosen all gathered and interacted with the cast. And so this Dallas Jenkins that is putting together the Chosen series is just doing it differently. He's following the trends of how people watch TV so that many more people can learn about Jesus. So, all right, those are examples. And now I've got 14 different things listed where I see different trends in the church. Just because somebody's doing it doesn't mean we should do it. Every local circumstance, every local church, every local community is different. So I'm going to ask you, are these things that we should pay attention to, or it's nice, it's good to know, but that doesn't really fit us? And the first one is digital ministry. So this, we all became, or were forced to become much more video orientated when it came to COVID, because services were shut down. We won't get into Governor Newsom. But I was in Carlsbad at the time, so I had a young guy, a vicar, intern that helped us really put together nice Sunday services. And that is a trend now, that your services are often live streamed or they're archived so you can watch them. There are even some churches that now are starting a digital campus. So a digital campus is understanding there's some people that aren't going to leave their home. We're going to have video content for them. We're going to have, videos every single day. We're going to have Bible studies where you can be a member of our church and never attend except digitally. So that's a trend. Is that something we should pay attention to, or doesn't really apply?
We should pay attention, but I don't think it's a good thing because you do not get to interact with your brothers and sisters, which is bad. I think you mentioned earlier, it's good if someone's sick.
Yeah.
Ed and I have been making calls for the last couple of years, and a lot of the people we call are not showing up and are watching on.
Yeah.
And one of them was very honest. She said, I like having my fuzzy slippers and coffee.
Yeah.
You can't do certain things.
Yeah.
But that's the reality.
Yeah. You've hit on a lot of the important points in that discussion. It can be a good thing, but it shouldn't be the substitution for gathering together. And, the good news of Jesus and his word was meant for brothers and sisters to gather together, to carry each other's burdens, to encourage one another, to even teach and admonish one another. And just like somebody could say about my job, well, do you got to fly all over the country? Can't you just, have a Zoom meeting? I do have a lot of Zoom meetings, but sometimes you got to sit down and talk with a group of people. So, any other thoughts on that, though? Because there's some really good things. I tell people now, if somebody comes and visits your church as a first-time visitor, they've probably watched 3 or 4 different of your sermons. So the new church shopping is to check you out on video. So you better put together as good of a video package as you can so that it's clear and you can hear. The days of the old VHS camera up in the balcony, you could barely hear the pastor. No, those days are over. You got to have a good system. And I know some pastors that they will shoot a video once or twice a week and then post that on their church's webpage. Just a little 5-minute devotion or topic. And then there's you have a Wednesday night Bible study, and then that's being filmed so that people, like, I commute, I don't get home in time, I tune in. So pay attention to it. It can be a good thing, but.
Does Wisconsin have YouTube that we can watch? Because there are other churches that are prominent on YouTube.
Right. Yeah, like live YouTube or even archived.
A weekly series.
Oh, more and more the Wells is putting together video content like that. I know there's a weekly Bible study that you can tune into. As far as like a Sunday morning, pick them. You can pick one. Your own church or other churches that might be broadcasting live.
I have the same question as Ed, I guess, about so many things are just parish specific. Hundreds of them.
Right.
And some are great, some are awful, some are...
Right. Yeah.
Pull it together like a best of.
Yeah.
That do it great. And as a corporate church body, it would seem like just repost it.
Yeah.
I don't know if as a synod, we're thinking of kind of a best of, or...
That's a good idea.
It's overwhelming. There's hundreds.
Right.
It's
Right. Yeah, it is. And that's a really good idea to put together an easy to find link that says these, yeah, and then, yeah, right. And even the time zone, like, okay, this is on at 9 o'clock Central. This is on at 9 o'clock Pacific. I'm traveling. I'm out. I want to watch one live. Where do I click? What's going to be a really good feed that me and my family on vacation can tune into? That's good. Yeah. Here.
Aside on this, I know of 2 congregations that do not have pastors that take his sermon every Sunday.
Yeah.
And they wait, they have it. The sermon comes on, they do their sermon.
Yep.
He does the sermon for them.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a help for them.
That's how the vacancies are getting served. Yep, I know a couple too. Yep.
An example would be, have you heard of Brian Wolfmueller?
Brian Wolfmueller. I don't think so. I don't. Oh, okay.
He's in his car and he's answering questions about the faith.
Okay. Yeah.
Perspective.
Right.
Someone like that would be, I think, would be good.
Yeah. Yes.
How is AI used in churches?
I just read an article that a pastor said he was blown away because he watched himself preach in Spanish even though he doesn't know Spanish. Because AI took his sermon, his video, and translated it to Spanish. So this is why you can't dismiss it, but you also want it to be supplementary to the gathering of brothers and sisters.
This may be the same instance, but that also translated his face and the movement of his mouth.
Yeah.
Speaking the words in Spanish.
Yeah.
Very carefully to detect that it wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
Sermon in English, not only translated verbally to Spanish, but all
Even manipulated the enunciation facial features. Unbelievable. There are 2 Wells churches that I know. Both of them are pretty big that now have tried to have a digital campus. And that shouldn't scare you if it's doing some of the things we're talking about. But it also, be careful. Be careful that you don't push people into their pajamas, 24/7 instead of getting together. And, but we have to be aware of some things. So that's a good discussion, a good evaluation of a trend. All right, I'm going to do it because there's 14. We won't get them all. Small groups. So almost every new mission seems to start with this as a model. So it used to be, and maybe it's still here, you guys can tell me, you have your 8 o'clock service, your 10:30 or 10:45 Bible class in between, and maybe you'll have a Wednesday night Bible study too. When I was in Carlsbad, that was their pattern. But a lot of new mission churches sort of recognize not everybody's going to stay for 2 hours. So we're going to have one service at 10 o'clock and fellowship afterwards, and we're going to get to welcome and talk to our new people. And then during the week, we're going to meet in people's homes in groups of 8 to 12, and that's going to be where we have our Bible study. And they're called life groups or grow groups, or the latest one I've heard is oasis groups. And that little group meets and they care for one another's needs like we're supposed to as brothers and sisters, and you're kind of held accountable, and you can get together and do fellowship things with this little group. And so you have these little mini groups all kind of based off and in your church. Is that a good trend to follow, or something we don't want to pay? Yes.
I think it's a great trend because people will tend to talk and communicate in a smaller group than a larger group.
Right. Right. That's a really good point. All adult education studies prove that. That when you get in a big group, some people just aren't going to talk, but in a smaller group, they might not only talk, they might share something that's really, that they're dealing with personally.
The only downside to it is if they become clique groups.
Right.
That can be, doesn't matter, just it can happen without having.
That's true. That's true. Yep.
We have our small groups, I've never attended those, but I appreciate that we have the Bible study here also.
Yeah.
And of course, the small groups are usually different.
Yeah. So what I always tell people is the Sunday morning Bible study group is a small group. The retired couples that play cards together once a month, that is a small group. The people that go out to eat together, that is a small group. Every one of them could turn into a clique, but every one of them could be a good thing, like, hey, we're friends, we're brothers and sisters, and we are supportive of our church and our pastor. But hey, pastor, I found out that, Jane and John's father is suffering from cancer. Could you, include a prayer? And yeah, so it can be, but some of it is deliberate and some of it's not deliberate. So, it's an interesting model, and but I see a lot of churches doing it, and I think there's good things that can come out of it, but it doesn't fit every situation. And sometimes you just want your pastor to lead you in a Bible study, and he does all the talking and he does all the teaching, and there's not as much discussion, but it's good. So, all right, let's go to compassion ministry. Do you know what I'm talking about? Again, every new mission that I deal with begins as one of its core principles, we will get attached to something going on in our community that is a need that we can participate in. And maybe it's a food pantry, and maybe it's a clothing swap, or maybe it's a backpack full of school supplies for, families that can't afford them. Or maybe it is something or another, that picking up trash at an event or handing out water bottles. It is something that shows that we're not a closed-off group, that we want to be good neighbors in our community and help where there's a need. And so that has become a part of every new mission, and I'm seeing churches more and more embrace that rather than say, you know, we're here, you come here, you get spiritually fed, that's it. So what do you think of that? I think it's, yeah. Yeah. You got to get the...
It can be good. Again, if it becomes the focus and not the gospel, you have a problem.
Right.
We've lost a few people to another church because we didn't feed the homeless.
Yeah.
That's a nice thing to do, but that's not the focus of the gospel.
Right. The church has to be the church. It has to be the gospel preaching, word and sacrament ministry that it primarily is. The compassion ministry, though, becomes an important aspect because nowadays people, number one, they're not really, you know, it's ever more true today. They don't, what's the word? Nobody's going to care how much you know until they know how much you care. So our society is skeptical of churches. And if they see a church that seems closed off and not a part of a community, they're like, what's up with them? And if they see a church in their community, they're attracted to their deeds and their concern. And young people don't necessarily like, oh, what? You want me to serve on the board of elders for the next 8 years? You know, they don't want to do that, but they will go out and hand out some groceries. I went up last January, with 12 seminary students to Reading. And they call that winter rim. It's like a week of out of the classroom experience for the seminary students. And we partnered with a food bank in town, and we went door to door saying we are collecting groceries for this food pantry. We sent out postcards. A better way is to even hang like a door hanger. We'll be back in a week. We'll be back next Saturday. We're collecting things. We're from, St. Mark's. They're Mount Calvary in Reading. And then they also have a second campus in Anderson. And we're going to do this because we care about our community. I've never had as better of a door-to-door experience as I did that Saturday. Because, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, come on in. And then they open their pantry door and they start filling up your grocery bag. And they know that you care. And then you just have a casual conversation. Oh, what church is this? Oh, Mount Calvary. Oh, nice. Where are you guys located? The door, the block was opened. The icy, I'm suspicious of you, you're just looking for members and money, that's gone, and now you care about your community. So it can be a good thing, and I think churches need to have an aspect of that in their ministry plan. One of the better, yeah.
I'm just going to say, I think pastors can join chamber of commerces.
Yeah.
That gives them a feel of what's going on in the area of their ministry.
Right.
I mean, what's the age group? Is there new housing types going on? There's other things going on that you can get involved in.
We tell the mission pastors, get involved in your community. Volunteer. When I'm working with the group in Petaluma, we did community interviews and we asked if we get a new pastor in here, what can he do to get involved? And that's kind of an interesting area. I don't know how many of you know that much about it. I knew nothing about it. You're North Bay, but you're far enough away from San Francisco that it's different. It's even kind of agriculture-based. They have a butter and eggs festival. And we found out that they would love it if you came with 10 volunteers to the butter and egg festival and help pick up trash. And if you get 10 or more, they'll let you wear your church's t-shirt. So, you're helping. My son-in-law down in Chattanooga, Tennessee, he could not get, you can still canvass and go door to door in the South. You can't do that out here. I couldn't do it in Colorado Springs after a while, even though for the first 10 years I could. But you can in the South. You can in Chattanooga. You would be amazed if you've never been to that part of the country how many churches you see just driving down the road. But he couldn't get any volunteers from his church until he said, how about this? We're gonna spend some money on some non-perishable items of grocery. We're gonna knock on people's doors and we're gonna say, here's a bag of groceries. If you could use these, this is our gift from Living Hope Lutheran to you. If you can't use them, maybe you know somebody who could use them. And that, all of a sudden, a dozen people signed up to do that. And so that's why you have to have some aspect of compassion ministry. You can't do it all, and you shouldn't do it all, because you're right. We're about the means of grace. We're about Christ crucified. But if that can break down a barrier so you can have a conversation, hallelujah. All right. Renting out your facilities. You got a school that doesn't apply, but there are some big churches that schools have closed, and then they got this giant gymnasium and nobody uses it. Rent it out. You'll meet people. You'll help the community. Some mission churches, they start, and what do they have during the week? Well, maybe a Wednesday night thing, maybe certainly a Sunday morning thing, and they go, we can't meet anybody, and we have budget problems. Well, rent something out. Rent it to a realtor that's waiting for their office to be built. Rent it to a dance studio that needs it on Tuesday and Thursday nights. You'll meet people, you're providing a community need, and you'll get a little bit more income.
The problem with that is that you become liable
Right.
when somebody gets hurt.
And so, the Wells has partnered with something called Space Together, which is like the Airbnb of churches. So if you're a new church and you need somewhere to rent, you go to their site. If somebody is looking to rent out their space, you go to their site. And just like with Airbnb, they have all this insurance and they have all these things. People come to your house and you're covered. You're not liable anymore because there's insurance. So the same thing works with this. And then this Space Together company helps you go through the legalities, go through all the concerns, maybe put up some cameras, So they've thought through all that stuff. But you're right, yeah. But that was always such a concern that we just didn't do it. We didn't touch it. Now it's something to consider, but it's not for everybody. And there's churches I've met with. I don't push any of these things. I throw them out there, and there's more than one group that has said, we like our space. We're fine budget-wise. We have ministry programs where we're meeting people. We'd rather not mess with that. That's fine.
Once you rent your space, you then get into a potential legal quandary when you choose not to rent it to someone else. They can sue you for discrimination.
Unless you work with Space Together, and they say, we don't want you to rent it because now you're signing a lease, and now it's theirs for that hour. But if you rent your home through Airbnb, it's not their home. And you can also just click not. You can just say decline. And you don't have to give a reason. So again, that's all your concerns are good concerns, and this is a group that's thought through all those concerns. And they provide a training for you so that all those questions are answered. Yeah. But again, not everything. All right, I've done 4. There's 14. How many what do you want to talk about that I wrote down there and you went, what's that all about? Or I've got some strong opinions about this one. Number 7, lack of commitment to church attendance and membership. Okay, so the trend is, of course, attendance is down. I mentioned it in my sermon. You know, people that attended 4 Sundays a month only attend 2 or 3. People that attend 2 or 3 once a month. People that would come once a month, now we don't see, you know, maybe every 3 to 6 months. Or people are like, I really like your church. I like your pastor. I like the services. I'm not going to join, though. I'm not going to become a member. Have you noticed any of that here? And so it's a trend. It's not necessarily a good trend. One of the things we talked about, of course, was that there is a good side to videotaping. Listen to me. What a dinosaur I am. For putting your digital content on the internet. Another thing is, we, in home missions, we have them, churches count unique souls. That's how many people attended in a given month. So if you had 50 in your early service and 50 in your late service, and then next Sunday you have 60 in your early and 60 in your late, that's actually 20 more. So now you've got 120 unique souls that attend, and those 10 are different. And so you count the total amount of people that worshiped in your service a month instead of just averaging Sundays. Because those are people you're reaching with the Word. You still want to work on so that they can become communicant members, but for a variety of cultural reasons, they're just afraid to join something. And yeah, I mean, the church I attend now when I'm home, which isn't very often, they've just made this decision. And you can argue with it. I get the argument. But they have communion before the service. Maybe Foundation does that. Maybe they do it after the service. I don't know. I get that because it can be offensive if you invite people to church but don't invite them to communion. On the same token, my home church, and I've talked to my pastor about it, if you go to a church service and communion's before, then you don't know what you're missing when you see it. You understand what I'm saying? That if you're in church and you see everybody going up there, but you don't get to go up there, it'll lead you to go, what am I missing out on? And so I think it's a good thing to have it in the service, but I understand the churches and why they don't. Yeah.
Biblical literacy, I was thinking, for classes or something advertised, because I run into people who say, I've read the Bible, but I don't understand it.
Yeah.
They sort of need some
right.
to
Or for the person that has never read the Bible and is afraid of it because I don't know who Abraham and Moses and Peter and Paul are. So the way churches are addressing that is, not everybody's going to like this. Pastors are preaching longer because they got to give more background than ever before. Because people, you can't just assume, as I was preaching on Revelation this morning, I'm like, well, I gave a little bit of background. I could have given a whole lot more because this is, the book of Revelation. Or classes, like, hey, we're going to do Bible History 101. And we're going to start with creation, and we're going to talk about, the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We're going to actually drill down on that stuff. Our synod put out a new catechism and often ties an Old Testament lesson with the lesson of the day. So little things you got to, you can't just assume that the people you meet understand all this Bible history and knowledge. So you got to address that somehow.
We learned last Saturday, a week ago Saturday at the Elder Ness Valley, that in many cases now, people don't even know who Jesus is.
Right.
Much less Paul and Abraham.
Yeah, you're right.
word.
Yeah, swear word. Or they just know him as a great religious moral teacher along with Buddha and whoever else. They've heard of the name. They don't know anything about him. So, yeah.
What is 11 and 12 about?
All right. Mega church movement giving away to authenticity. So, people that study these things say the big mega churches are on the decline. And then there was the big mega churches and everybody who's trying to be a big mega church. That is on a decline. Now, I can't prove that in Colorado Springs. There's all these evangelical ministries in Colorado Springs, Focus on the Family, Navigators. They're all there. And so I see a lot of mega churches. But people are starting to figure out that's entertainment. It's not authentic, genuine Christianity. And I want to go to a place that I can meet real people who are struggling, who want to believe in the Word, who want to follow the Bible. And so that's a good trend. And boy, a Wisconsin Synod Lutheran Church, we're kind of the opposite of a mega church. So we can do that. We can teach you the Bible. We can introduce you to friends. I think that's a trend to kind of pay attention to. And we shouldn't just always envy. Well, look what they're doing. I wish we could do some of that stuff. That trend's going down. But none of these trends, are just go straight up and straight down either. So I don't know what you got, in this part of Sacramento, but what? Yeah, right. I've heard of Bayside even. Yeah. All the campuses.
I know some of the people that go there. There is no affinity. They show up. It's not an attachment to anything. We were discussing this some years back when I was on the elders, and I got a hold of one of he's a Presbyterian church, and the pastor was, and I called over, but they having the same problem, declining. He goes, yeah, we just don't entertain as well.
Yeah.
Was his answer? He said, I guess I'm going to have to learn the tap dance in the pulpit.
Yeah.
I mean, he made fun of it, but you could tell it hurt.
Right. And what's the phrase I've heard? Smoke machines and skinny jeans. That if you're a pastor and you want to be all hip, you got to have smoke machines and wear skinny jeans. And I think that just if we ever thought, I need to be like that, we need to be that hip, we need to be that full of entertainment. Don't think that. Be glad who you are, and that your genuine friendship, your neighborly kindness is going to go a long way. Lately, I've had a couple of problems with my neighbors. I mean, literally my neighbors. And we bought a house when we moved back that's kind of tucked into a bunch of trees. And so we're like, oh, man, peace and quiet. We're not going to have any problems with our neighbors. Until this neighbor that we share a driveway with didn't really like, driving up and down, and you're wearing out the parking lot, and now they've installed a camera. And you're like, why? Why can't we just be? And then this other neighbor, he wants his fence repaired, and I'm like, you can't even see your fence from your house. I can, though, and it's a mess. And you're like, why? This is the world we live in. But if you can be a good neighbor, if you can be someone that doesn't fight or someone that doesn't wag their finger, that's an authentic, genuine display of Christian love, and that's attractive. And that's what we can do. The other one was ChatGPT. Does anybody, certainly a couple people know what that is. Yeah. ChatGPT is, you can type in, write an essay paper on, psychotherapy. And what? It types it for you. Here's your essay paper. You can, in some advanced systems, write code for this computer game, and it'll do it for you. I typed in, just for fun, because it's free, write a Lutheran hymn, and it did. However, if anybody's monkeyed with stuff like that, you know, the Lutheran hymn was, it was kind of like, it just repeated Lutheran phrase, here I stand, by grace alone. You know, it wasn't creative. There was no feeling behind it. So a church, like I get everybody's electronic newsletters that you get during the week, because I visit 40 churches a year. And I actually called up one of the pastors, and I made jokes about it. But you could tell whoever put that newsletter together used ChatGPT to write an announcement, because the announcement is not at all, it was spiritual, but that's not how we talk. That's not really accurate way a church is going to make an announcement about something. And he goes, yeah, I got to talk to my secretary about that. So like, we could do that. We could, you can, is it a good thing? Is it a good shortcut? Or is it, yeah, we're going down a dangerous path here? Yes.
The focus seems to be on expanding domestic Lutheranism in this country. But we've got a massive open door in Vietnam.
Yeah.
How much of the Synod's emphasis is on foreign missions like that, as opposed to trying to grow the church here locally?
There's a really good Wells connection. Were you at the 8 o'clock? Did you see that Wells connection where they're using the internet to reach different cultures? I mean, yeah, I work in home missions. That's my field. World missions, yeah, and between the internet and a bunch of different things, yeah, the gospel is spreading in certain areas. Like the rainstorm of the gospel has moved to different countries, and it's pretty exciting. And there's different ways that people are doing it. So I could have put that down, like world missions, globally speaking, what are the trends we should pay attention to? And this Academia Christo is one that's really reaching a lot of people in the Spanish language, and now they're trying to do it with other languages too. So that's a really good point. We got 5 minutes or so. Any other little things that jump out at you? Yes. Yeah, and I probably should erase that, because some of them are the digital stuff. Some of them are the church membership thing. Those are just kind of some post-COVID trends. But, you know, one thing I've noticed too is that we were all separated. And now there's a longing to get back together again. That wasn't good for the human race just in general, much less Christians. And so embrace that getting together. But understand too that, you know, and I travel a lot, and people just don't talk to one another. We have a divisive world as far as, you know, politics certainly, but also just like your attitude towards, you should wear a mask, you don't need to wear a mask, you should get vaccinated, you don't need, you know, we have a divided world now. All that kind of came to a forefront. And like, oh gosh, I didn't know that we had such divisive, you know, viewpoints on how to even live your life. So we got to kind of be aware of that. On the same token, let's have some good conversations that are filled with grace, seasoned with salt, full of kindness and compassion. But you know, we're not going to compromise on the word, but we're not going to be a divisive neighbor either.
I think because of the post-COVID trends, that, you know, people have turned inward rather than be more outward.
I think you're right.
I mean, I can go to places like we were in, I was walking the dog, we were visiting my daughter in Idaho, walking down the street. People say, how are you doing?
Yeah.
They actually contact me, ask me.
Yeah. Right.
You walk down Actually, I did too.
No. I learned that when I lived in California, and then I got back to Colorado Springs in 2021, and I went, this has changed. You know, it used to be a lot friendlier place. So, yeah.
On the other hand, though, I don't think you can say it's all of California.
No.
There are communities where you go, people smile at you when you pass.
Yeah.
They say hi, or,
Yeah.
you know, are you new in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
Yeah, we shouldn't just sweep it. Right, I agree with you. Yeah.
Another thing we have to look at is that what we call the people, the nuns. The
Yes.
nuns, they're not that.
Right.
I remember the old Kennedy method. If you died that way, would you do that now? Like, who cares?
Right.
I mean, so yeah, we've gone to a different route.
Right.
And that's, you gotta approach them a whole lot different.
You do. That's a very good one. Yeah, we were all kind of taught at the seminary. Pastor Valesky was my, and he said, yeah, that was a good way to sit, and that the question to get people thinking was, if you were to die tonight, do you know where you'd be, heaven or hell? And people don't even believe in either anymore. So now you have to come from that's why some of this compassion ministry and kindness to your neighbor really counts more than ever. Yeah. All right, well, this was good, and it helped me. I'm actually giving a presentation like this at the seminary to some students, and then also a church that invites speakers in once a month. And so this is the second time I've done it, and some things I'm going to add and some things I'm going to take away. But I appreciate just you're thinking about these things, and that's the important thing. You can't just dismiss it all, but you can't just jump on every new trend either. So let's close with prayer. We thank you, Lord Jesus, for your gift of the gospel, and then you give it to us to teach and to proclaim, and ask us to be wise with how we do so. So give us wisdom and discernment so that we can understand the human nature that is out there, the cultural changes in our own country and in the world, and then to make the most of every opportunity you give us to give people the reason for the hope that we have in you, Lord Jesus, our Savior. Amen. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Yeah.
Give them back to him?
Right.
He's taking some of the stuff off anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Pastor, are you working with the churches in Vegas?
Yeah.
My son, Brian Heinitz, goes to...
Oh, I know Brian.